We got another round of rumors on the next big Assassin's Creed game, plus a few notes on that Ubisoft Sofia project we've been talking about, and what Montreal is planning for Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Before we dive in, the main event, Ubisoft Forward, will be happening in just 2 days, so make sure you're subbed to the channel so you don't miss any of it. All of this information comes from a single source, the Triple Click podcast, which is hosted by Jason Schreier, who you might know as one of the more accurate investigative journalists in video games. This guy, leaks stuff, talks about rumors, and it's almost always right. So I'm going to drop a link in the description so you guys can hear for yourself. Around the 23-minute mark, they have about a 5-minute section where they talk all about Ubisoft's Forward event and what to expect. First off, let's talk about Valhalla. So Jason said Ubisoft is really into expanding Valhalla and adding more stuff to Valhalla. So that'll be a big thing for a while. So this is really further confirmation of what we already knew, right? From the rumors sort of verifying that yes, Ubisoft is going all in on Valhalla. We know that this game is the best-selling in the series of all time, and they're banking on the fact that they've shifted towards this more live servicey model where they sort of drip feed content over extended periods of time. And I think we've talked about it here on the channel, whether they're doing, the best job of that. And I certainly hope that if that's their plan, they ramp that up, and maybe since COVID is ending now, they're able to deliver more consistent content. We'll talk more about the secret DLC in a second here, but this makes me wonder if we're going to see like a second season pass, if Ubisoft is investing so much into this game that they're actually making another DLC after the secret Meteor DLC. We'll have to see. This next bit of information, I don't think we've really heard anything about the next Assassin's Creed game outside of Ubisoft Sofia, the next big mainline game. Jason Schreier said, I heard that they made some recent changes and they might put something else out in the next year or two. So that would be like a small spin-off game. But there's one big Assassin's Creed game in development. Like, it's going to be really big. And Jason went on to say that their goal is to make the game bigger than others. And they're kind of laughing through this section. So it really kind of sells the fact that whatever this Assassin's Creed game is going to be, they want it to be bigger and longer than Valhalla. So they see Valhalla and the success of these recent games and say, let's go even further. So there's a lot to talk about here because you guys know how I feel about Valhalla, or if you didn't, this is the big video here that I talked about, why Valhalla ultimately disappointed me. A big part of it is that I felt the game was trying to be a jack of all trades, master of none. And that's what it felt like to me. And part of that is the scale, just how many bells and whistles and how many things are going on. Nothing felt like it dove really deeper than the surface. That's how I feel. I know plenty of people crave this stuff, and it feels like Ubisoft is leaning into that side of their fan base. More content, more to do, longer lifespan. And hey, people like that. It works for some people. I'm not going to, rain on that parade. But I had to sit here and wonder, how do you make Assassin's Creed bigger? I mean, you look at Odyssey, it spanned pretty much the entirety of the Mediterranean Sea. It's huge. Valhalla took sort of a section of England and focused on that, but then we also had Vinland, we had Norway, and then we have these, massive expansions that are coming and adding even more landmass. Is Ubisoft trying to represent an entire region of the world, an entire nation, a country? It reminds me of Far Cry 6, which is building an entire fictional island nation in the Caribbean called Yara, and they want this to feel like a fully realized island, not just a section of an area. How do you fill that space with more interesting things to do? And also, how do you make it fun to traverse? That was another big knock I have on Valhalla. It just becomes a little boring and tedious to travel across after a certain point. One final thing I'll say is, and this is probably really ambitious, but what if the next big Assassin's Creed game returns more to a focus on the Animus and has us going to multiple ancestors' time periods, right? Multiple parts of the world and sort of fusing that experience all together into one. Would be awesome, right? People have been clamoring for an Assassin's Creed game set in Asia. I could also see that happening. Tons of landmass over there, obviously. And if this game comes out, 3 to 4 years in the future, if it's truly the big next game, It'll be right in the middle of this generation of consoles, which means it should take advantage fully of next-gen hardware, shouldn't be held back by a previous-gen version, hopefully. And it could be exciting. I just hope that they really actually do take the time to evolve on this current formula, because I just don't think that making a bigger version of what we already have here is something that's going to last the test of time. On to the next bit of info. Jason said that he's heard rumors on the internet, probably the ones we've been talking about, that he's heard similar things about Ubisoft Sofia, that they're working on something that was either canceled or morphed into DLC. And he said a lot of Ubisoft is in flux because they've been having so many development issues. We can assume that this is that King Richard the Lionheart rumored game from Ubisoft Sofia that's been completely canceled / morphed into a DLC that we know now as Meteor for Valhalla. So even more confirmation of things that we've already heard. And yeah, man, kind of a bit of a bummer. I would love to see a smaller scale AC game, but clearly Ubisoft sees what their audience is going for and wants to invest more in what's working. This really sets Meteor, the secret third DLC in stone for me. This thing is absolutely going to happen. We're going to see it. I hope they show it at Ubisoft Forward, but if not, that's pretty much what's going to be on our minds outside of Siege of Paris. That's it on the Assassin's Creed front, but there were a few more interesting notes on this podcast for Ubisoft. First off, Jason said that from what he's heard, Ubisoft is aiming to go in a radical different direction after Far Cry 6 for the next Far Cry game. He said it's very vague, he hasn't heard any concrete details, but they're shifting gears on that front, so the next Far Cry might not feel like the last three. And then there's going to be one big surprise game at Ubisoft Forward that one of Jason's inside sources said don't share anything about, so he listened. We don't know anything about it. There's some speculation out there, but I'm just gonna wait and see what they show us. So that is it for this one, guys. A bit of a shorter video, but I couldn't not talk about this. I mean, this is exciting news no matter, where you stand. It's always exciting to hear about new games, no matter how I feel about the previous ones. But once again, it's E3 season. We're going to be covering Ubisoft Forward and any new details we get out of there, so stay tuned. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please let me know by clicking the like button. If you're new around here, make sure you are subscribed to the channel and also click the bell to receive live notifications so you don't miss my next video. You can also follow me on social media. I'm jayveeonYT on Twitter and jayvee.yt on Instagram for updates on all of my content. If you want to chat more about Horizon or really any other game, join our community Discord server over at discord.gg/jayveeonYT. Links for everything I've talked about are in the description below. Big thanks to my YouTube members, Ultra fans Bill and Cam, Super fans Tipsy Sergey, Tarl K, and William, fans Matthew Spyro, JVO, Level 42, Blood Sky, Kamal, and Andy, and supporters Nos, Sung, Adam, Mr. Hollow, Quickness, Firkin, Jay, Sam, Abhishek, Ferris, Report, Gabrielle, Abraham, Reaperman, John, and Teo for supporting the channel. If you want to support me further, click the join button below this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.